Hi guys, welcome to Sustainable Stace. Today we're talking about the last 3 days of incubating chick eggs and getting the nursery ready. Let's bring those chicks into the world. Stay tuned. I'm Stacy Taves. For me, healthy food and sustainability are totally connected. You can grow it yourself. Nature is generous. Okay guys, welcome back to this episode of Sustainable Stace. We're dealing with the last 3 days of incubating chicken eggs and getting the nursery ready. So it's getting those chicks ready for delivery and then seeing them and celebrating them into the chick room where they're going to be safe and thriving. Over the last 18 days, I've had to go in manually 3 times a day and turn the eggs. And you've probably seen my previous video on incubator success. I've always had this old school heater fan right here. So every time I swing open my incubator door, I have this fan on so that the cooler air of the room doesn't just flood in, but instead the warm air from the fan floods in to try to kind of stabilize the temperature. I've noted to you in my previous video, there's a pan of water in the bottom. So today at day 18, I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to remove all the eggs from the turning mechanism, and if you've got a turner or an auto turner in your incubator, you've got to get them out of there so that they can rest free and easy, so that the chicks can wrestle their way and break their way out of their eggs. You can't have them locked into little cup holders that are preventing them from moving around. You've got to increase the surface area of water so that your humidity is going to go up, and you've got to drop your temperature just a little bit. So just to review that again, we want to bring the temperature down from, instead of 99.5 Fahrenheit, which is 37.5 Celsius, you want to drop it to about 99 even, or 37 Celsius. It's going to drop half a degree. You got to get your humidity, which was at 40 to 50, hopefully, for the first 18 days. Now for days 19, 20, 21, you want that to basically double. You want to get up into 75, 85%, so you got to get more surface area of water. And most of all, you've got to be patient. And once we've gone through setting everything up here and getting the eggs ready for their last few days in here, I'm going to take you into the nursery and show you how to prepare the space for your chicks, whether it's a small little clutch or a big clutch, to get them ready to be cared for as if mama was doing it. So here we go. All right, so dealing with the humidity level, I've got a whole series of pans I'm putting in the bottom of my incubator, and I've got a watering can that holds like 10 liters, and I'm putting pre-warmed, like just really warm water out of the tap into here. And the goal now is to load up enough water into this incubator so that I can keep the door closed for 3 days, at least 2, and not open it. So I'm filling up pans as full as I can fill them, and I'm moving them back into the incubator, and my deepest pans are going in the furthest. So just filling them up. Again, remember, the more surface area, the better your chance of success in terms of increasing or jacking up your humidity levels. Just double checking that I've got enough room for this pan as well. If I don't, nope. So we've pushed that first pan into the back, and now I've got a second pan which was in here before, but I'm trying something a little different. This is the pan that was in before, but I had an idea of increasing my surface area, and that is that I'm going to put this little baking rack in here, and then I'm going to try to get another pan in underneath it. So now I've got 2 levels of water in this area. So I'm going to fill this one up, fill up the one on top of it, and we're going to get as much warm water in there as we can to optimize our incubation options. I've got so much water in here that I think I have to refill my can. I'm just taking out another tray of eggs from the incubator. Going to try to gently separate the turning mechanism from the eggs without harming any eggs. And the goal again is so that when the chicks are trying to break free, they will be able to rock and roll in their eggshell without being restricted in their mobility. So there we are. Set you free, baby. Now you're ready to rock and roll to freedom. Okay, so we've just got another tray number 2, ready to go into the incubator. Let's put these little babies back in. Yeah. There's only one tray left. Tray number one. We're number one. Let's get these guys going. Okay, so we've adjusted our humidity, adjusted our temperature in the incubator. One's gone up, one's gone down, and we've removed all the eggs from anything that could strain or restrict the chicks' movement as they try to break free. Now let's get in the nursery and get it all set up for you. Okay guys, so we're in the nursery. It's getting set up. The biggest thing I'd have to emphasize that's different now on camera than what it'll be like when the chicks are in here in a day or two is the lighting. By the time the chicks come in here, I'm thinking about how to create an environment that's the same as being under their mother after they hatch, which is really dark, really calm, really warm, no stimulus. The number one thing that I've seen cause problems in the chick nursery after they hatch is light that's too bright. It just amps them up. They feel stressed and anxious. They tend to be nervous, hide in corners, pile on each other and fight. As soon as you make it like being underneath mama and it's quiet, mostly dark, just the light of the heat lamps, it really calms down. So the thing I'll do once I'm done on camera is put cardboard over all my windows. There'll be no natural light shining in, so you don't get bright sunrise, bright sunset, or hot afternoon sun coming in. Very calm, mellow light like a red heat lamp. I have two of them here lined up behind me. I just want you to also note that starting right from the first day, I'm going to have an automatic waterer. It's not even turned on right now, but I'm going to set it up nice and low to the floor so they start getting used to drinking from an automatic waterer. And a full-size, I'm all grown up type of feeder is here, and I've just got it hanging on a chain so it just swings above the floor's level, just a centimeter off the floor. So there is one automatic water, big feeder right away. And that's part of the plan for feed and water, but I'll have 3 more feeders and 3 more waterers as well, and they'll be interspersed. Water feed, water feed, water feed, just around the perimeter of the warm center where the 2 heat lamps are. Part of the reason I have 2 heat lamps is there will be a lot of chicks in here, and the other reason if one bulb goes down, the other one will keep them warm. So that's really important to note. This is my favorite type of chick feeder to use. It's very small. If you wish, you can hang it from a ceiling. I just normally put them on the floor. Here's the critical thing when you have nice dry bedding, as I do here, is that I cut little pieces of wood that are about 15 centimeters square, and that goes on the floor underneath the base of the feeder so that as the chicks get bigger, I have bigger pieces of wood underneath them. I do the exact same thing with my preferred choice of waterer, a little piece of wood, 15 centimeters square underneath, and these are about a 4-liter capacity, and the top and the bottom just screw off. When this is clean, you fill it up. You thread it on like this, and it just glugs out a tiny little hole right here and fills up, and the chick can drink in there. If you have too big of a waterer for a newborn, they could fall in and drown. So that's feed, water, dry bedding. Good place to start. Let's keep on looking at some other details. I'm purposely in the corner of the nursery right now, and I've done this in each of the corners, and this is critical. Chicks will pile up, they'll dog pile whenever they're afraid or scared, too dark, too light, anything that stresses them, they'll pile up in corners. The critical thing that you need to do, and I'll just move to both sides here so you can see it, is create a space that rounds or softens your corners. So here I've got a piece of cardboard that's nice and tall, it's 1 meter tall, no chick can fly up over it and fall behind, and it's between the studs of the wall so that the chicks will keep moving and turning and kind of flowing like tidal currents. There's no possibility for a dog pile to happen when you've got a soft corner like this. So it's really critical you soften corners. A lot of people will sell about 1 meter tall piece of cardboard that you set up in a circle, and that can be a really nice way to have a circle nursery so that there are no corners at all. That's a great way to go. I just don't have a big enough round area for the hundreds of chicks I'm hoping to hatch. So I just soften all the corners, no dog piles. Critical safety factor for chicks to thrive. When you're getting ready for the chicks to enter the nursery, the thing that I do when I've taken them out of the incubator, making sure that they're totally dried off and downy. You sure don't want a wet chick to come into the nursery because the other chicks will pick on them, peck at them. When they lie down in the sawdust or the bedding, that'll stick to their wet downy feathers, and that'll cause something that the chicks will peck at. So you have to be really sure they're dry and downy when you bring them in, nice and warm. And the first thing I do when I have a baby chick that I'm introducing to the nursery, I have water that's the temperature of the room. I would not put cold water in here. I would let my room warm up to the temperature I want it to be at. before the chicks come into the rooms that the temperature of the water is also the room temperature, and I dip their little beak right into the water so that they get a drink, and you see them get a drink, and now you know they're going to live. Pretty much with heritage birds, the old school breeds that I raise, if they make it to hatch nice and dry and they get their first drink of water, I don't think I've really ever had an instance, short of a bizarre incident or accident that's resulted in one dying when they're young. Get that first drink of water, and at that point, if you put them down under a heat lamp, they will position themselves closer to the heat source or further away from the heat source based on their comfort level, and they're ready to get rolling. Nice warm drink of water, you're live. Now let's talk about the feed for the chicks when you get them going. You're gonna have to buy crumble or starter, it's called. I just want you to see how tiny these little crumbles are that the chicks start out with. Just the right size where they can wrap their tiny little beaks around them and start eating. This is the only time in my animals' lives when I offer something with medicine. It's medicated chick starter. I don't give any inoculations, any immunizations, any vaccinations. The chicks are born out of the nursery. I give them a drink of warm water. I put them under the heat lamp, and there's lots of feed available with feeders interspersed around the perimeter of the warm spots under the heat lamp, and it's medicated chick starter. Once I've gone through one sack, which is 20K, it might last a week or so. Then I just go into non-medicated chick starter, and as soon as I go to pellets, which are the bigger size that young adults and adults eat, then I go to non-GMO. I can't get non-GMO starter, only non-GMO for adult pellets, so that's the best I can do. But a little bit of medicine in there is a great way for them to start off. If there seems to be something going around, you don't want your chicks to have a disease that kind of outbreaks in your tiny little flock. So medicated chick starter is a great way to go to get your little babes rocking. Just want to cover the topic of temperature in the nursery for the chicks. Obviously the temperature that they need to be at to be really thriving is critical. Typically in Fahrenheit it's considered about 95 degrees Fahrenheit in their first week of life, and you drop by 5 degrees Fahrenheit every week of life for those first 6-8 weeks. You just gradually take 5 degrees off a week, which is I think about 3 degrees Celsius. So you'd start off at about I think 36-ish and then go down 3-4 degrees each week. That really doesn't help you any. What you really need to do is watch the chicks' behavior. So I just want to quickly tell you what to look for, because if you get the right temperature, you'll know immediately. And you'll notice that all of my heat lamps like this are on chains that have links. And so I have an S hook in the ceiling, and if it's too hot, that means the bulb is too low, and I raise it by a link or two. And if it's too cool, that means I need to lower the bulb, so I lower it by a link or two. Now, I always recommend S-hooks with feeders and waters, but I would never use an S-hook on a heater, because if the chicks flap around or something strikes it, and you have an S-hook on a heat lamp and it falls down, you have a fire hazard and possibly damage to some baby chicks as well. So I use a carabiner that I can clip on and off just like that, and raise and lower on the chain link. So that's the first thing to consider. Now, just one more word on temperature for the chicks. The best way to measure the best temperature for the chicks in your nursery is to watch their behavior and see where they position, and I'll just cover that by dropping the camera down a little lower so you're looking right at the floor with me underneath a heat lamp. Okay, so there's a heat lamp here, and basic premise is you want the chicks to be in a nice symmetrical circle on the outside of the perimeter of the heat. If they're right underneath here, it means they're too cold and they are trying to get more heat, but they can't rise and get closer to the heat, so they're just right underneath it. There's too small of a spot that's sweet for them, and you're gonna have to drop your heat lamp, which will cause them to push out to the edges, which is nice. If it's way too hot in the room, they'll pile into the corners of the room. That means you need to take the whole temperature down, get a little bit of gentle air cooling coming in the room. You certainly don't want a cross breeze or a wind. So if they're concentrated under here, they're too cold. If they're going to the corners, they're too hot. And if they're in a nice symmetrical circle around the outside ring of the light that's coming down from the heat lamp, you got it just right. Good morning. We're opening up the incubator now. Let's see what the little chickies are looking like. Well, good morning. Nice. Good morning. Look at you guys. Morning. 7, I'm going to just leave the ones that are quite freshly hatched. They can come out a little later. 12, 13. That's the coolest looking one. Look at those colors. 14, 15, 16. 19, 20. And here. Come on, baby. You can see this one here is just struggling to get out right now. We're just gonna pop them all back in the incubator with the shells out of the way, and they'll go one more time. Nice. Well, guys, I hope that you're ready to be parents of your new baby chicks. I think we've covered everything we needed to. We've covered water, we've covered feed, we've covered temperature and bedding, no drafts, the right location and way to adjust your heat lamps, and to make sure most of all that you've got rounded corners and edges in your room for the nursery, and no direct bright sunlight, so it's calm and it's feeling just like it's underneath Mummy. Thanks for watching, learning about taking those last 3 days in the incubator and into the nursery room for optimal success with your baby chicks. Good luck. I hope it's awesome for you and you enjoy raising heritage breeds, hens and roosters for yourself. Take care. Thanks a lot for watching. If you've been watching this on YouTube, please go down there in your bottom right and subscribe. We'll keep sending you an email so that every time there's a new resource that's hopeful, helpful, and healthy from Sustainable Stace, you'll be getting it in your inbox. Thanks for watching.